This program made possible by the following.
Welcome to this edition of Partners for Community Living. I'm Judy Leasure, and I'm very pleased to be your moderator for this session of our program. What do you think it would mean to America in general and to all of us in the Miami Valley if our nation could save $90 billion a year? And that's not 90 million, that's 90 billion. And what if we could save that 90 billion in 2013, and then we could save another 90 billion in 2014 and 2015 and on into the future? Then let's think about what it means to 50 million Americans in our country today, many of them here in our own community, who will go to bed this evening without enough food, who will wake up in the morning hungry. 50 million Americans every day dealing with the effects of hunger. 16.5 million of those children. 1 million of those are senior citizens. Veterans in our country are more than twice as likely to need food and are unable to have the food that they need to keep themselves healthy. Now imagine somewhere tomorrow morning that a baby is born in our community, a baby whose mother did not have the correct nutrition, enough nutrition for herself, let alone the growing baby. And that baby may be born with a cognitive impairment or with anemia or with other effects of malnutrition. Imagine a little boy or girl getting ready for the kindergarten or the first grade and there's no breakfast. And imagine them going home at night and there's no dinner on the dinner table. Imagine the impact not only on that child, and not only on his or her classmates, not only on the teacher, not only on the mother and father, but to all of us in our community, to all of us in our nation. $90 billion a year. That's the financial impact of hunger in what is supposed to be the wealthiest country on earth. We can't do much to solve the problems at the national level at this time. But we are asking you to join us for the next few minutes and to spend that time with us in finding out what we can do about it right here for the children that will get up and go to school in our schools, for the young teenagers who may be out looking for a job but who do not have the stamina to even go out and fill out an application because their bellies are empty. Very pleased and very honored that we are going to be talking with representatives of the Foodbank and also a representative of the Hope Foundation. I'm going to introduce our panel, and then we're going to start talking about what hunger looks like and what hunger feels like in the Miami Valley, because that's where we can make a difference. And I'm very pleased, seated next to me is Michelle L. Riley, who is the CEO of the Foodbank Incorporated. So we want to make sure we get the Incorporated there. Right across from me is Rosemary Dannin, who is the Community Relations Director for the Foodbank Incorporated. And then we have Scott Sliver, who is the Executive Director of the Hope Foundation. And I think what I'd like to do is start out, and we'll start out with, since we have the CEO, it's always good to start with a CEO. Can you give us an overview or a description of what the food bank is, how long, maybe a little bit of the history, how long has the food bank been in operation in the Miami Valley?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thanks for asking. So our mission is to acquire and distribute food. We have a member agency, 85 member agencies that get food from us. We serve Montgomery County, Preble, and Greene counties. And in those three areas, the reported food insecurity is about 132,000. 40,000 of those are children.
And do you have numbers on approximately how, by pounds or any other measurement
I do.
of how much food you distribute on an annual basis?
Thank you for asking. Last year we distributed 5.7 million pounds of food, and we'll be well over 6 million this year. I think that, you know, in America, the statistics that you are giving, 1 in every 6 Americans report food insecurity. To put that in perspective, we're the 11th. Ohio ranks 11 in high food insecurity. So those are substantial numbers. We have 12 food banks in Ohio. We are one of a 12 food bank network.
And Rosemary, as Community Relations Director, you work a lot, obviously, with the community. Do you have any information about the rate of hunger and food insecurity? And that was a new term I learned, but certainly, maybe tell us how you see that term, food insecurity, and who are the people that are food insecure or hungry in the Miami Valley? And, you know, we looked at the national statistics about children and elderly and all, but who are they here in our community?
I think most people would be surprised to learn that people who are food insecure, meaning that they don't have enough food, nutritious food, to keep themselves or their families healthy throughout the month. It could be anybody. It could be your neighbor, your friend, family member. It has no bounds as far as zip code. And as Michelle said, in our service area of Montgomery, Greene, and Preble County, there are 132,000 individuals who are food insecure. So it crosses all education levels, all economic levels as well, too.
And how do people find out about the food bank, or do they have to have applications, or how is the food distributed to people that are in need?
We have a network of 85 different member agencies, and the Hope Foundation is one of those agencies. And if a person is food insecure and in need of food, they can call the United Way's Help Link. We are a United Way member agency. They can call the Help Link at 225-3000 or 211 on a landline, and they can get information on their nearest food pantry. And
is that done in a way that is not meant to be as embarrassing and, you know, to the person? I can imagine that some people, especially if that's something new for them and all, it must be very difficult.
It is.
To make that step to say, I need this help.
It is very difficult. Some of our member agencies, you know, they see people every day who have never had to rely on a food pantry before, and they are very sensitive to their needs.
And Rosemary talked to Scott, let's go to you, and she talked about the member agencies, and that's something I wasn't really very aware of. So maybe by telling us about the Hope Foundation, we could find a little bit more about how the partnerships, and since Partners for Community Living is interested in partnerships, we're interested in this one as well.
Yeah.
So tell us about the Hope Foundation and then how you interact with the food bank.
Well, I'll start by saying I'm here representing the 85 member agencies. We couldn't do what we do without the food bank. We just wouldn't have enough resources. And so what we do, what we're really good at, is getting the food out to people. We go to many locations across the Miami Valley. We go to Fairborn, we go to Huber Heights. We're actually in the city of Dayton. We have a pantry that's Monday through Friday in Beaver Creek. And as you were talking about people coming in for the first time, it's not unusual for someone to walk through the door and just break down into tears because they've never had to do it before. There's a perception in the community that this is a perpetual problem, that people are raised in the system and they stay in the system. You know, that may be true to an extent, but I had friends that made really good incomes. You know, you have a 2-family income, somebody loses a job, got kids in college, a couple of car payments, you know, and they show up and they're in need of food. And, you know, what do? You help them. Our job is to help them maintain their dignity.
And not to ask how it happened or why it happened, but to take care of the immediate need.
Yeah, you know, people are pretty quick to tell us their story, you know, because they're embarrassed. And they come in and they don't know the system. They're like, what do I need to do this? And our job is just to put them at ease, make them feel comfortable, to not, to help ease their embarrassment and to make the process as painless as possible.
So who and what are the member agencies? Are they like the local churches, or how do you become a member agency?
Yeah, well, with the Hope Foundation, we partner with lots of different churches and organizations. We're all volunteers in what we do. We have volunteers who sort of prep everything. We bag the groceries and then we take them out to different locations on Saturday mornings. We go to Cedarville and to Jamestown, and there are churches that don't have the resources, and so what we do is we will resource them. I love calling somebody and saying, hey, I heard you have a pantry and we'd like to resource what you're doing, and they just kind of look like, are you serious? You just want to help us? Well, if the idea really is to get food out to hungry people, you know, we don't get too hung up on, you know, who they are, how people are going to find out about it, because word will spread. You know, if Rosemary needs food, Rosemary will call her neighbor that she knows is in need, who will tell her cousin, and the word gets around. And it really isn't hard. You know, if you show up with food and you do it on a regular basis, people will spread the word themselves.
Do you see in this community the rate very similar to the national? Do you see very many senior and elderly people who need to rely on?
We do, and in fact the food bank this year, a new initiative is our mobile food pantry, and twice a week we are taking out, actually 4 times a week, we are taking food on a truck out to low-income senior housing complexes to distribute food.
The ones that we're most concerned about, the most vulnerable, would be senior citizens and then the children. We send out a week 950 backpacks. They go to children who've been identified as otherwise not having food on the weekend. Everything can be opened by the child and eaten without having to warm it up. We prefer that they be able to, but it's sent home with them. And the schools themselves identify. So there's 950 book bags that go out a week. That and the mobile pantry center, we try to take them specifically to senior citizen centers, because a lot of times they're immobile and can't get out. And so if we bring the food to them, then it just makes it easier. And if you're embarrassed because you're a senior citizen and you can't afford nutritious foods, we try to bring a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables. You might not want to go to the job center to fill out paperwork on, you know, all the paperwork that needs to be done, but you might walk down with your neighbor and get some fresh bananas and a bag of potatoes and apples.
I think that's one of the things that would really not be positive for people to have to go through that routine of being in applications and processes and things. So talk a little bit more about, I just think the backpack idea is so remarkable, and it's like, why shouldn't we have been doing this for a long, but how does that really impact if you have the child and you send the food home for them, and then you have the rest of the family at home without the food? I mean,
well, that's true, and they're 2 separate programs. So actually the food bank, maybe we should talk a little bit about that. So we help get food to pantries. We serve congregate meal centers like the House of Bread, someone who would hold a meal that would serve several people, shelters, and then kids cafe after school programs, summer feeding programs, and then this backpack program. And the goal is that no one falls through the crack. A lot of times when parents, you know, they've, in the public school system, if they qualify for free and reduced lunches, that doesn't mean that they don't have food on the weekend. We are looking for specific children who the school has identified that need the help on the weekends, that extra help.
and I know you're not professional nutritionists, any of you or anything, but just how critical, especially for the children, that they have nutritious food and all as they're going to school. I mean, I imagine if your belly is growling and you're hungry, is there anything else you can think of? How can you learn?
Right, and it's those early years that are most important because the early years construct the brain architecture, and so that's really why we try to get food into the young, to the youngest people. So they're the most vulnerable.
And I think one of the important things I hear you saying is nutritious food.
Mm-hmm. That's a big change at
Yes, not just any food.
That's right.
But nutritious food, because sometimes the easiest food to purchase are those things that are not so nutritious for you. And how is there a way people can participate in the backpack project or anything?
Well,
Or
there
is-
is, and maybe we should talk just a minute about how we get food. So there's 5 streams of food.
There,
We
that's
get
good.
the national office provides the USDA and TFAP. Then we have local merchants we pick up every day. I always hesitate to name them because I'm always afraid, but our big ones are Sam's Club, Walmart, Kroger's, Targets. We have trucks on the ground that pick up and deliver there every day. And then we have a very strong state association, and through the state association, I have 2 types of ways I can get food: shelf-stable food cans that is given through a grant, and then the second is nutritious food, which is fresh fruits and vegetables. And last year, our grant was for $326,000, and that translated to about 1.2 million pounds of food. And the good part about that is the money came from the state. Governor Kasich was very generous. It came from the state. It's delivered through our state association, but it goes back in the hands of farmers in Ohio. So we don't go outside of Ohio to purchase our food, which is very helpful to everyone in the economy.
And so the people can just donate to the backpack program, or they can we'll talk a little bit about the barrels because we have personal experience with the barrels, but can they sponsor a child or a backpack or?
So backpacks normally for us to put them together to get wholesale, it's about $2.88, except for once a month we put peanut butter, which is the protein. And you ask about families, and quite often we know the peanut butter goes home and the whole family eats it, and that's okay with us. But those then run about $4.84. So when you send in, we are always very careful to tell people when they send in money for backpack or they send in money for food and they want it to be specific for that, all they have to do is write that on the check. It goes straight into the food account. Not a penny goes to operations or programming. So if they want to give, they can give that way. It's a little harder to donate because I'm sure if you have children of your own, you know you don't want to give one child a can of peaches and another child a can of apple. That just doesn't work out well. So we order by the truckload, and we get it that way wholesale and keep the price down. However, food drives is a different. I'd like, if it's okay, to have Rosemary talk with you about food drives.
Why don't you tell us how we do food drives?
Yes, and food drives, we constitute between 10 and 15% of what we distribute, so they're very important. And I know your organization over the past couple of years has donated almost 500 pounds of food to the food bank, and we really appreciate that. We appreciate your support. This year, we're a little down, and so we would like to encourage people to have a food drive. We're used to seeing about 350, 400,000 pounds a year in food drive, and right now we're about 170 pounds. We would like to be up to 400,000 pounds by the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th. So if anybody does want to hold a food drive, they can go to our website, which is thefoodbankdayton.org, and there's a tab called How to Help, and they click that tab and there's a form to fill out, and we will deliver a barrel to the location and then pick it up once it's full.
And it seems like that's one of the important messages to really share, is that people feel really generous around Christmas and around Thanksgiving, and no one wants to turn them away and to stop any of that.
Right.
But certainly that the need for food is as pressing in January and February as it is in November and December.
It certainly is, and people are hungry all year round, and you're right, and people are very generous during the winter holiday season, and we do appreciate that. We do have a very large food drive in the spring, and I would like people to mark their calendars for the second Saturday of May, which is this year, May 11th, and it's the National Association of Letter Carriers Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive. It's the largest single-day food drive in the nation. So we would like people to remember that. And what you would do is you would put a bag of food out by your mailbox, and your letter carrier will pick it up. That all comes to the food bank. And what we do is we have volunteers that work for several weeks. They inspect every can of food that comes in, every box. They box it up into smaller boxes, and then it's distributed to the agencies like the Hope Foundation.
Okay, and say the date again so people can put it on their calendars.
It's always the second Saturday in May, and this year it's May the 11th.
Because that's something we can do without leaving home.
That's correct.
And really make an impact and things. So to know that you can make a difference with a can of soup or a jar of peanut butter or something
That's right.
is really
And one
an
can
amazing
of
feeling.
food makes the difference between somebody eating and not eating. So there's no donation that's too small.
And I know during one of our times when we had the barrels sitting in our front lobby, I know there was a specific request for, I think, beans and rice and some things. Are there things that you prefer on an ongoing basis, or are there things that you do not want to take?
Well, the most requested items are high protein items, such as peanut butter, canned tuna, canned chicken, your canned meats. Of course, everything has to be non-perishable. And then second, breakfast cereals, oatmeal breakfast cereals. And then soups and hearty soups and stews are always welcome. And also dried beans, canned beans, pasta and pasta sauces. Can you add to that?
That's a great list. You know, we're thankful for whatever we get.
Anything that comes in?
Yeah,
right,
really.
Right. And if a church or an organization or a Boy Scout troop or a class wanted to do something like this, it's all they really need to do is call for the barrels or something, and that's as simple as it is for them?
That's correct.
Okay, what is a phone number they can call if they want? I mean, you gave but in case, you know, they're not maybe really using the website there, is there a phone number they can call?
Yes, the phone number is 461-0265, and if they would dial extension 31, that will hook them up to our person who handles the food drives.
And if there is a church or an organization that has not so far set up their own food pantry or something, is there help in if a church or an organization would like to do that on an ongoing basis or set up their own food pantry? Is there a way that you could help them do that?
Yes, we have a program services manager, and same phone number, it's 461-0265, and her extension is 16.
And what's her name?
Tashira Collier.
Okay, so they would know a person to talk to or
Yes.
something. So if a community group or a church wants to get involved in doing something like this on an ongoing basis, do you get feedback as to what your services mean to the community? I mean, how do you get your feedback, and who do you get it from?
We go visit agencies, and we actually we can go work with Scott and distribute food on his mobile food pantry and talk to people, and they are so appreciative. It just means so much to people to be able to access this food, and you can tell when people walk into a food pantry and they know that that's available, they just automatically relax, and it's a wonderful thing to know that this community has pulled together to help people in need.
One of the things that they did at a state level that I thought was really interesting is during budget talks, when there was a lot of talk of being cut, they brought paper plates in. And they were just empty paper plates, and they gave them to clients and said, if you'd like to write something on them, you can. And they did, and the messages were amazing. And then we delivered truckloads of those paper
what a
plates
great idea.
to the state. And it made a difference. It made a difference to hear the voice. You know, everybody wanted to fill out. You just never know how people are going to take things, and it's always a humanity issue. We don't want to put somebody on the spot. You know, we don't want them to tell their story if they don't want to. But boy, they really liked writing their story on these paper plates. Some of the children even wanted to draw pictures. You know, and some of them, you know, some of them were joyous and some of them were heartbreaking. But it got the message across loud and clear.
Creative ideas, and especially to get to those elected officials, is very critical. Scott,
We have one iconic photo of a woman that looks very much like Rosemary. She's standing in the middle of a parking lot after we have given her food, and she's loaded up. She's got her bags on her arms, and she's standing there, and she's holding, 10 pounds of potatoes with this big smile on her face. And whenever I do a presentation, I bring up this picture, and she's standing there with this smile, and it just shatters people's perception of who the poor are. And I point to it and I say, this could be your next door neighbor. It's like Rosemary was saying. She could be the person on the treadmill next to you. She could be the soccer mom driving through your neighborhood. It's the people who are hungry are people you would not always suspect. And it's just, it's an amazing thing to be out there. We did a distribution to, it was over 200 families this past Saturday. And my job is I welcome everybody. I walk down the line. I let them know what types of foods they're going to be getting that day. And I just want them to feel at ease. If they're standing in line, you know, these folks often are in long lines. Their whole life is spent standing in line and showing IDs and filling out forms. So my job is to kind of ease them along a little bit. And the number of people, little old ladies oftentimes, that throw their arms around me and hug me, and they kind of do this to me, and they say, thank you so much for what you do. I don't know what we would have done without you. We registered over 20 new families this past Saturday, and they're like deer in the headlights. You know, they just don't know what to expect, and we just put them at ease. I say, just go in. Do you have ID with you? Okay, well, you just go in. They'll take care of you. They'll give you we have virtual case manager cards, and the next time they come, they just scan it. They do an e-signature, and it's painless. It really is. And people are just so appreciative, and they oftentimes don't look like anybody that you would expect.
I think one of the myths too is that we have people who say, should this person get food or should that person get food? It's something to have. The unique thing about Scott is he's one of our larger member agencies, and we really like him because he does a good job. But he's mobile pantry. He's the first of his kind. And the nice part about this is that when people stand in line for food, they're standing an hour and a half, and they're getting a bag of groceries about this big, and you know, they're getting a bag of potatoes, a bag of apples, and some fresh fruits and vegetables.
Greens.
And greens.
Don't forget the greens.
That's right. Yeah, they love the greens.
Nutrition.
They do. It's
Yeah.
nutrition. But who does that? Who stands in line for an hour and a half to get that kind of meal? So we know that the need is there. And one of the ways that we know, there's a lot, everyone hears that unemployment, right? It's getting better, but we use there are other means that we use to measure where people are at. So for example, median income right now in the past year, $46,000. In 2007, it was $48,000. That was the median income. So people are getting back to work, but the jobs that they're getting are not paying a sustainable wage where people are still getting on their feet. Are things getting better? We think they are. Do we want to see food insecurity increase? Absolutely not. However, with our mission being to acquire and distribute food through 85 member agencies, the beauty of that member agency is that they all give out food differently. So Scott's a mobile pantry. We have, I love to tell the story about Assumption, who used to be, I think she's in her 90s now, right? Still works 3 days a week. She's like the general when she walks through, right? And she started it in the old convent. And then, you know, we have Catholic Social Services, St. Vincent de Paul. We could go on and on about Mount Zion, who gets food from us. But they all distribute food differently. And they all do a good job of that. I think that's the beauty of this network, is not everyone does it alike. So.
And let's talk more about your mobile.
Yeah.
Your mobile.
We're boots on the ground.
Your boots on the ground people, and thankfully for that. But how did you get to be mobile, and where did the funding come for that?
Generous people. It's
Just individual donors?
Yeah,
and business
primarily,
donors?
and we're also a member of the Combined Federal Campaign, so we're an approved agency of that
So if
as
people
well.
want to make a donation through United Way this
Yeah,
year?
they can designate
The
our
Hope
agency.
Foundation.
The Hope Foundation.
The Hope
yeah.
Foundation.
I'm not sure where we were. Where
You're
were
mobile.
we
We
going
want
with
you
that?
to
Oh,
talk about
mobile.
mobile.
You're
Yeah,
mobile.
well, we had a contact, talking about schools, we had a contact at Fairborn Primary School. Most people know it as 5 Points Elementary. We contacted them. They contacted the families that are on reduced fee or free lunch programs, and they let them know that we would be there. And so what we did was we pull the truck up, we load up the bags, we load them onto the truck, and then they actually open up the school cafeteria for us so we can go inside. People can sit inside. Either it's too hot outside or too cold or it's raining. They're inside and they're being registered in there, and then they come out and we walk them to the car. The cool thing about what we do is really how we treat people. We walk them to their car, we talk to them, and we do it every month. Like we go to Fairborn now. We've been there the first Saturday of every month for 3 years, and you know, I feel like a rock star when I go. They go, "Hey, Scott, how you doing?" You know, and we walk up to them and we get to know them, and you know, they know when the truck is going to pull in without fail at 10:45 a.m. on Saturday morning. They're already insecure, and I don't want people going, are they going to show up? Is this going to be the Saturday, the month that they're not going to show up? In 3 years, we've only had to reschedule one distribution. It's because we got 5 inches of snow on a Friday night. And I personally called every family that we served the month before. I apologized that we couldn't be there. I'm sure they weren't there either, but that wasn't the point. The point is that they don't often get treated with great respect and like customers that are being cared for. And so that's kind of how it started. And then I had a contact. I did they call it a briefing out at Right Pat. I did a briefing, and they told me about the CFC. And I'm like, I don't even know what the CFC is. So people have nursed us along, and then people hear about what we're doing. A church in Huber Heights called and said, hey, we heard about what you're doing. Rosemary remembers when we used to do it right on the street corner, and a church opened up their doors, Destiny Church, and they said, hey, we would like to partner with you in this. So that's really the way that it works, but we are passionate about getting food to people, and a lot of folks don't have cars. So we take it to them, and the food bank is doing that. If you've never been to one of their big farmers markets at the University of Dayton when they've done that, it's fantastic. People coming together from all across the community, feeding people. And it's not this heavy, oh, we're helping you. You know, it's like a party. You know, it's like a street fair, and we make it fun for people.
And tell us about the farmers market. I'm not aware of that at UD.
So twice a year we do a farmers market, once in the spring and then one during Hunger Action Month in September. And the goal is to kind of take some pressure off of our member agencies, because when fresh fruits and vegetables, I have a 3 to 5 day turnaround on that. Sometimes they never hit my floor. So you can't allow fruits and vegetables to go bad. And a lot of the smaller agencies, they don't have the room or the capacity. They're usually volunteer staff, so we help them by doing that. I'd like to go back to the funding. You know, sometimes there's a misperception. I was on the news with Jim Mahdi over the holidays, and he did a great job coaching me because I'm, you know, a little bit TV shy. He said, you know, where are you getting your donations from? And it's the first time I really thought about it, because, you know, we get a lot of donations, and while I love to get a big check, right? We could talk about, you know, DP&L is very good to us and very good to our backpack program. You know, so when I get those big checks, I'm really happy with that, because it makes everyone's job a little easier. But that's not how we get our money. A lot of our money comes from those small checks, and I always use Sally as an example, right? If Sally tithes or gives 5 $25 checks and somebody in her family loses their job, now she's given 3, I'm still getting one of those checks. And it makes a difference, because, you know, like Rosemary said, 1 can of food makes a difference whether somebody eats or not. And with $1, that we can provide 8 meals with that. So by the wholesale, by the food drives, by the food we get, and by Scott, we partner with him on the weekends to take the fresh fruit and vegetables. We bring them from our place. And one of the nice things about Scott is, before I got there, I've been there 2 years. In 2008, before 2008, the Emergency Food Bank was under the umbrella of the Red Cross. 2008, it came out as its own standalone nonprofit because it was just such a great need. And so when I got there, we were not fulfilling capacity in terms of Greene County. We had no good way to get food there, and that's where Scott came along, because, you know, if you don't have an organization that's well spread, you know, when you get into Yellow Springs and Greene County, it's so spread out. Yes. There was no good way to do it. So when Scott got his mobile up and running, that was the best way for us to distribute food in Greene County, and we're glad.
Yeah, they show up with skids of food, bananas. We had corn on the cob. We've had watermelons, cantaloupes.
Those are great.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd imagine somebody that's hungry.
And you know, to see people's eyes when they go, oh my gosh, we get all of this. You know, it's really heartwarming to see the result of that. You know, we couldn't carry. We're good at drawing a crowd, and then the food bank has come alongside us, and they show up with their truck that's bigger than our truck, and it's loaded with skids of fresh foods. Bakery goods and different things, and when we unload it, you ought to see, I mean, the line of people from here out the door, and when the skids are coming off and they're going, oh, we got chicken, and oh, we have, you know, breads and
it's like Christmas
potatoes.
Every day.
Well, you know, I mean, as a consumer, I go to a store and I buy potatoes, and they're, you know, $5 for whatever, 10 pounds, and, you know, the food bank is such a great resource, and we just get to give it all away. And people are they're just so appreciative. I can't stress that enough. These are not people who are coming and taking, they're coming and receiving. And I just think it's so much fun to be a part of it.
Well, I think one of the important things we want to talk about, and then don't forget
Yeah.
where you want us.
I was just going to thank you for having us here, because this opportunity to talk around the table really squelches a lot of the misperceptions
Right.
about what we do.
Well, and I think it was one of the saddest parts of the last election was that people who are poor, and that translates to people who are mostly hungry, or hungry a lot of the time and all, were the scapegoats, and they were the don't talk about them, and we're not here for them, and we're not here to do programming and policy for them and support for them. They don't count, and so I'm just so honored to have Scott. You serve as a volunteer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a day job.
And how did you start? Was it in you and the idea of people going hungry and all? What got you started, and why do you keep doing it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have a friend, his name's Doug Rowe, and he invited me probably 20 years ago to go out on this bus on a Saturday morning to go distribute groceries. And I kind of went, why would I want to do that? You know, that's like, it's your thing. But what happened was, over the years of just going and doing it, it got in my blood. And I had a friend who started the Hope Foundation because she was raised in a family that didn't have a lot of resources. She ended up being a single mom with a few kids and was struggling to make ends meet. And she saw the need, and she started the Hope Foundation. And we had a facility on Main Street, and she knew that we had this facility, and she said, could we have our office for the Hope Foundation in that facility? I'm like, sure, here's a key. She could use it as a base of operation. Well, about 6 months into it, it just kind of outgrew her capacity to lead it. She had a day job, and she was very stressed out, and she said, I think you should do it. And I went, no, put me on your board. I know a lot of people, I can help you. And she said no, and she kind of did this, and with a swipe of the pen, suddenly I'm executive director, you know, of the Hope Foundation. And so I showed up at the Foodbank and just kind of learned the lay of the land, and it was just kind of hit the ground running. And you know, the beautiful thing about our community is Dayton is a very generous community, and there are a lot of churches and community organizations that are out there actually doing this day in and day out. And we're all sort of fighting the same battle, and we're all working together. We're not talking about competition here with 85 member agencies. We are all, you know, we all come, we get the resources from the food bank, and what we do is distribute it. Whether it's a church with 50 members that is open once a month and they take care of 15 people, or like, you know, we distribute, I think it's like 15 tons a month or something like that. But we're all fighting the same battle, and we all kind of lock arms and encourage each other along the way. So,
Do you feel well, I know you, Rosemary, you started earlier saying that you really could use more. So what level of support, in addition to what you have now, would it take to meet all the needs that we have in the Miami Valley? How many more organizations, or how many more pounds of food, or how many more donations would it take to assure that we're meeting our home needs, you know, that we're taking care of our friends and our family and our neighbors?
Well, it's not unusual for representatives from our member agencies to come in and say, gee, we're serving 30% more this year than we were last year. I think that our distribution went up 15% from last year to this year, and so we keep seeing that same, you know, incremental increase. And even though the unemployment numbers, as Michelle said, are getting better, it's not getting better for everybody. So anytime anybody can help us come in and volunteer, anytime anybody can have a food drive for us, anybody who can have hold a special event and raise funds for us, it's going to be put to use, and it's very much needed.
Well, I know one of the most important services and programs that our partnership, Partners for Community Living, brings to this community is our shared volunteer program that brings in more than 5,000 hours of service every year to the people we serve with disabilities. And I imagine that volunteers are just as critical to you and what you do. Talk about your volunteers, who they are, how people can get involved, what do they do, and if they want to get involved.
We couldn't do what we do without our volunteers. The volunteers are the lifeblood of this organization, and I know it's the same with our member agencies too. I think most of the people who operate at the agency level, member agency level, are volunteers. There's very few paid staff. But there's an opportunity at the food bank for anyone who wants to volunteer. Our minimum age is 14, so you do have to be 14. Anybody 14 to 18 must be accompanied by an adult. But any place where your passion is, you can come in. If you want to sort food from the food drives, you can do that. We can send you out on one of our mobile food pantries so that you can have that experience. We have envelope stuffing. If you want to help organize an event, you can do that as well. But there's a room for everybody who wants to volunteer.
And about how many volunteers do you have currently?
We have about 2,000 volunteers this year.
2,000.
So we're
That's
working.
amazing.
We have our volunteer
We
coordinator.
anticipate being over 3,000 by the end of the year.
That's
We
amazing.
go from June to June. Our year's not the fiscal.
That's a great resource.
Yes,
That's
it
a
is.
great
It is.
resource. And from 14, do you have your oldest volunteer? Or?
Well,
Yes,
actually,
we do.
our volunteer, he's been with us for over 20 years. His name is Harry Franklin, and he is in his 80s. I don't know exactly.
He still works about
what
3 days a
Oh,
week
my
and checks in cans for integrity and for
Yes.
what their expiration date is. He's a great volunteer.
And is there a minimum? I mean, can people volunteer one time? Do they have to sign up for weekly or monthly, or how are the hours, and how does it meet the needs of the volunteers as well by
You can
scheduling
come
and
in.
things?
You can come in one day and do a 3-hour shift on one day, or you can come in every day. That's really up to you and where your passion is. Our volunteer shifts at the warehouse itself is Monday through Friday, 9 to noon and 1 to 4. And then our mobile food pantries are on the weekdays as well.
And they would need to come to the food bank to fill out an application? Or?
That's correct. You can also go online to thefoodbankdayton.org, and there is a tab for how to help and a volunteer tab, and you can fill out your volunteer information there, and when you submit it, it will go to our volunteer coordinator. And he will call.
And he will be very happy to get
That's
in touch
right.
with you, right?
Yes.
Because just as with the donations, I'm sure even though you have, going to that 3,000 mark, you still have a need.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're not all there at once, right?
They're not all there at
Not all
once.
there
No,
at once.
it
It's
really is just a
staggered.
handful of people that do, many hands make for light work.
Right.
And it really
Right.
is evident in things like that. We don't have a minimum age, and I love getting like these little 6- and 7-year-old kids. They come with their mom, they'll call and say, can we do this? I'm like, yeah, bring your kid. And they can throw in a bag of rice, or I like teaching the kids how, because we create a lot of cardboard, right? And so I like telling the kids, okay, watch this, and I just kick a box and I say, take it over and kick it over by that bin over there, because we recycle all the cardboard. And the kids just, they'll kick the boxes around and suddenly they're involved.
We're allowed to do that
And I
here.
take their picture, I call them the cardboard kids, and I take their picture and I put it on our Facebook page. And it really is a fun thing to do. I love going into the food bank and seeing like LexisNexis or somebody that's there, and they'll send a group of employees, and they're there giving of their time, and the company is making a sacrifice too, oftentimes
yeah.
doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Dayton really is a fantastic community to be involved in this type of thing.
Well, we found that too
Yeah.
with the services we provide for people with disabilities and all that. People, if you ask and if you share information and all, they're willing to help. And I think the quality of life for one person relates directly to the quality of life for all. And so when we do something that helps someone else, it helps us build a better community. And the community becomes more stable. It becomes a nicer place to live,
Right.
to be friendly and neighborly and everything. So to me, Dayton has always felt like a small hometown or something where people do have that. If we know and we can help, we will. But tell us what we need to do.
That's correct. And anytime we ask, people come forward, and it's like all you have to do is ask.
Right, and say, there's a really pressing need right
Right.
now, and we need to take care of this. What kind of things right now, are you low on any kind of particular things, or just general donations would be great?
General donations would be wonderful. Like I said, we can always use high protein items: peanut butter, canned tuna, canned chicken. Breakfast cereals, those are always in high demand as well.
Now, we have a very small staff, so we have 17 at the food bank. So one of our favorite ways to have someone volunteer, and a lot of times they can't go off-site, like Scott said, we'll have a busload of DP&L. They make their executives come, so that's very fun to have them come over and truck boxes with us. So, so there's lots of ways to volunteer. But if you can't leave where you're working, there are other ways to volunteer too. Because we have a small staff, we don't have a development staff. So the only way that we ask for money is through mailings. We don't hold fundraisers, and so a lot of times third parties, that's how we get our money. They'll hold a fundraiser on our behalf and or collect food. And so there's volunteer opportunities even if you cannot come to the food bank.
And if people, other than, we know the food is always necessary, but money always helps as well.
Money's a good thing. It's always a good thing.
Money helps with all those costs and everything, doesn't it? Donations, monetary donations are tax deductible.
That's correct.
They're tax deductible, and they would make it out to.
I send a letter to everybody that sends me money. I get donations, everything from, and I get a lot of, there's always flack about who do you send a thank you card and who don't. If you get a $2 donation, do you send a thank you card? Well, yeah, I do, because
yes.
A lot of folks are on fixed income, and I may get that same $2 donation. In fact, I know someone comes to mind that I get one every 2 to 3 weeks from them. So those all donations
yes,
are
that person,
important
because
to us.
they're giving what they can.
That's correct.
I know we have. When we do our end of the year campaign, we can rely on 3 or 4 older people who every year $10.
And that's
and
the
those
thing.
people are
That's
as critical
right.
to us as a person that gives 1,000, because
Yes.
we know they're giving of what they can give.
That's right.
You know, if
Sometimes they
had
have their own
1,000
hunger story too.
Yes.
We have people who are hungry, who are now not hungry, who come back and give their time and give their money. And that's the best scenario, right? Is that you help someone temporarily, get out of
And then they
harm's
help.
way, and then
And
they
then they
come
help.
back and help us.
So it really does have those benefits and all. Do you see anything in the future that's going to help alleviate the hunger problem in this country or in our community? We know we have to do better with the economy and those kind of things, but is there anything else that anybody can do to, other than government or something, making changes that help us with our economies and all those good
Well,
jobs and all those?
As I told you, of course, everyone has their passion, but my heart belongs to the senior citizens and the children. And one of the things that you can do, it's a very small thing to do, is just pay attention. Pay attention. If you're a teacher or you bring someone to school and they're having problems, help connect them with the resources that are here. Same with the senior citizen. If you know that they're going hungry, help get them connected. Once you bring them to us, we can handle it from
Right.
there. But it's the ones that I don't know about that always keep me up
It's
at
so
night.
right that are not even having that meal that you're able to provide them,
That's
or something,
correct.
or that backpack or something. And I know you have, like we do, you have events and activities and all kinds of neat things that help spread the word about what you do and what your mission is, and to bring more people in to help with this very, very important need in our community. What are some of the things that are coming up as we look out of January and into the rest of the year or the next few months?
Right now, this week that's going on is the Miami Valley Restaurant Association's Winter Restaurant Week. And for every meal that is sold at any of the participating restaurants, $1 is going to be shared between 3 charities, and the food bank is one of them. And as Michelle said, $1 at the food bank provides food for 8 meals. So that dollar really goes a long way. And the restaurant week started January 27th, and it goes to February 3rd.
How do we know what restaurants are participating? Is there a way to know?
Yes, if you go to our website at thefoodbankdayton.org, there is upcoming events on the homepage, and if you click on that, it will take you to the Miami Valley Restaurant Association's webpage that will list the participating restaurants, so you can get to it from our
Well,
website.
that's certainly something we could do, is send an email out to all of our email list and say, look at these restaurants. We know you go out for lunch and dinner, so please do that this week.
Right, and it's
and
very
that would be an easy
popular.
way for someone that's going out to eat anyway. or
Anyway,
something.
that's correct.
Great. Okay, so there's restaurants.
Right.
So
And then at the end of the month, the end of February, February 24th, is the Day of Caring pancake brunches. And the Day of Caring is an organization that raises money for hunger and homelessness. And the food bank is a major recipient of their funding. And there are almost 60 sites on February 24th that are going to be holding pancake breakfast. and you can also access those sites from our website homepage. Also, the night of February 24th at Jilly's Nightclub at 7:30 p.m., there is a great music festival going on. 25 Dayton musicians are going to be performing The Last Waltz live, and there's a $5 admission charge, and the proceeds come to the food bank.
Now, what is The Last Waltz?
It is the documentary film that was made of the band's last performance.
Okay, so that would really be interesting for a lot of people. So that, and again, that's the evening of February 24th.
24th, that's correct.
Okay, so February is an important month for you.
It is. It's an active month.
Show your heart. It's Valentine's month,
That's
so
right.
show your big heart and go get out and support some of these events or anything. But those are things we've heard of, but I think a lot of people, you know, probably maybe have thought about going to Pancake, but you just don't think of where the money is going and what that's doing. So those are ways that we all can help in some way. We don't do as much as Scott does out there with his mobile truck and everything.
You know, everybody does their part. You know, the thing is, we can service 300 families in just a couple of hours. You know, people think it's this monumental task. In some regards, I guess it is. But you know, Rosemary's been out there, Michelle's been out there, and when you're serving people, the time flies, and it's not as big of a daunting task as it may sound.
Well, I think it's monumental on the end of people who receive the food, because it makes a difference in their lives.
That's what makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, so there's where it's monumental that you're doing that, and that you're getting people through this day and into the next and everything. So how critical. We're getting close. The hour goes so quickly and everything. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to share, or do you want to give phone numbers and things like that again, so that we can make sure that people, they say, oh, I heard that, and I want to make sure I go to that, or I want to make sure that, you know, let's go get a barrel this week and have our scout group or our church youth group or somebody fill that barrel for us or something. What in a couple of minutes can we tell people again, and you know, why it's so critical?
Right. What I would like people to do is to visit our website at thefoodbankdayton.org. There's a lot of information on hunger statistics and ways to help. And our phone number again is 461-0265.
You can like us on Facebook too.
Like us on
That's
Facebook.
right.
That's a good important thing. Everybody's trying to build those friends
They
on
are.
Facebook.
Yes.
We
It's
are
a good way
too.
to
You
get
can
word. Yeah.
Like the food bank,
Like
and
us
like
on-
Partners for Community Living.
That's right.
That's the goal for tonight, is to like us on Facebook. But that's a good place for people to go and see more of the stories, and you know, really keep in touch with what we're doing on a daily basis and all. And so many people like that as a way of communication. So it is critical and everything.
We'd like to tell you thank you for having us here. The more we get to tell our story, the more people hear, you know, and the better the understanding.
And I think that's what we want to do, you know, is we want to share. There are so many good things going on in this community, but there are so many needs, and to be able to bring us all together. And I urge everyone who's watching, if you've watched us for the first time with this program, or if you've been with us over the many years, make a goal this year, make it a resolution. It's not too late to make a resolution for 2013. That sometime during 2013, or all during 2013, you're going to make a difference to end hunger, or to at least alleviate hunger for the children in our community, for this elderly in our community, for the moms and dads in our community, for the homeless in our community. Give a can of soup, give $10, give of yourself as a volunteer. Give so that others will face a day where they don't have to worry about hunger for at least that day. Share what you have, make us a better community, and we'll all be better for it. Please do call the food bank. If you do have any questions and did not get their phone number, call us at 898-3655. And again, also remember the wonderful people we serve at Partners for Community Living, people with developmental disabilities, and their needs for safe and nurturing homes in the community. And where would people who are hungry and people who need homes be if it were not for this community that opens its heart and opens its doors to people in need? And there's no better service that any of us can do. And little by little, community by community, we can do something about those 50 million people that are going to bed hungry tonight. Join us again for another edition of Partners for Community Living. We are so grateful that we had people like Rosemary and Scott and Michelle to take time out of their schedules to come and share what makes this one of the greatest communities in Ohio. Thank you, and again, we'll look forward to another wonderful evening spent with you at Partners for Community Living.